after the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
The former Warrior buries a three, and San Antonio wins the game. 114-111. Harrison Barnes having a career-best three-point shooting year, bottoms a triple, and the Spurs deal the Warriors a very difficult loss. Shocking.
114-111 is the final. San Antonio gets the job done. Harrison Barnes, part of the Warriors championship team from 10 years ago. He sends the Warriors home with the buzzer-beating three. He finishes the game with 20 points, and the Warriors quite literally threw this game away down the stretch as the Warriors unable to complete the sweep of the back-to-back, unable to handle business in this game. It was a tale of the Steph Curry minutes versus the non-Steph Curry minutes in this game for Golden State as well. They had a lot of the others on a night where Steph goes for 30 and Jimmy Butler 28 that couldn't make shots, but just some catastrophic turnovers down the stretch in this one with the Warriors trying to hang on. They blow a 12-point lead at the beginning of the fourth quarter to lose this game after they had fought back. And really, the start of the second and start of the fourth quarters for the Warriors lost them this game, in addition to the two Draymond Green bad pass turnovers in the final minutes. Stephen Curry with a bad pass turnover in the closing seconds of this one, leading to a layup for the Spurs. And then I don't know what Harrison Barnes was doing. Must have thought that the Spurs had a foul to give there late when Draymond Green had the ball. Warriors go no timeout. He fouls Draymond. Draymond goes to the line with the Warriors down two. You're thinking, wow, coin flip. Is he going to make both of these? He does. But then you put yourself in a position where one tough shot or one tough semi-lucky shot can beat you. And that's exactly what happened. But tip of the cap to Harrison Barnes for knocking the shot in. Tip of the cap to the San Antonio Spurs for going in and competing and trying to make the Warriors earn it. And this is a colossal defeat for the Golden State Warriors. It is a horrible loss. It is a potentially prevent the Warriors from making the top six kind of a loss. They will end the night in seventh. We do know that a couple of these games that were on track to finish after the Warriors-Spurs game, Denver did win in Sacramento tonight, so they move a game in front of the Warriors now with the tiebreaker over Golden State, and the Clippers have just polished off Houston down in Southern California as well. They beat the Houston Rockets to get their 48th win of the season as well, so they move up. The Warriors moved to 47 and 33, so that puts them in seventh, a half game up of Minnesota. Minnesota's eighth. Minnesota and Memphis play tomorrow. Those two games, one game behind the rest of the pack in terms of overall games played. So Clippers and Nuggets, 48 and 32, the 4-5. Lakers won earlier there, the 3. Memphis now moves up to 47 and 32, a half game up on the Warriors. Warriors now in this spot where Memphis and Minnesota play each other tomorrow. And so the Warriors, should Minnesota win that game against Memphis, the Warriors would at that point move back into sixth in the Western Conference. But they're going to need a little bit of help now, even if it is just Minnesota beating the Grizzlies tomorrow, or potentially when Memphis plays Denver, going to need a little bit of help on Friday. But all of the scenarios in play for the Warriors to get to 4, to get to 5, to have the potential by Friday to basically have it locked up to where they could know that they're going to be in some form or fashion in the top 6, that's done at this point. That is all gone. They're going to have to play this thing out at this point all the way through until Sunday, and they will likely be playing a team in the LA Clippers that's going to be fighting to secure their spot, maybe not in the top 6. The Clippers now are in that position where they could have it secured and maybe be playing for 4 versus 5, knowing that they're in the top 6 regardless. So we welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. That is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text here. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open if you want to jump in and join the conversation as the Warriors lose this one on the Harrison Barnes buzzer beater, 114-111. Again, Warriors in 7th. And you look at the way this game ultimately plays out. Warriors started well in this one. They were up 11-0. They were doing it with defense, ball movement. They were up in the first quarter of this game by as many as 14, but there were 2 points at which this game flipped for Golden State. It was the beginning of the second quarter. Spurs went on a 20-3 run beginning of the second quarter. Tonight, without Quentin Post, Steve Kerr was searching for who would be able to fit in that start of the second, start of the fourth non-Curry lineup with Podziemski, Moody, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. He went to Guy Santos in the first half, and Guy Santos was awful to the point where he wasn't going to get the run in the second half. He went to Jonathan Kuminga at the top of the fourth quarter, and Jonathan Kuminga quickly got himself ripped out of the game. Brutal start to the fourth quarter for Kuminga, and it led to Jimmy Butler playing the entire fourth quarter. It led to maybe more Buddy Hield than you would like on a night-in, night-out basis for the Warriors. And tonight's one of those nights where they didn't get the shooting from the others. Stephen Curry also struggled from three-point range tonight, 5 of 14, so a high volume of attempts. I thought the Warriors throughout the course of the first half took a lot of bad shots that allowed the Spurs to gain some confidence here. And while you look up only 12 turnovers in the game, it's kind of hard to believe. But the fourth quarter turnovers for the Warriors and the turnovers, it just careless, not recognizing pressure defense. And Stephon Castle really put his imprint on this game in a big way for San Antonio, not only with the 21 points, but he had a couple of big steals down the stretch. And the Warriors just repeatedly, defensively, as the game went on, giving up open corner threes, open corner three after open corner three. They were giving up penetration. They were collapsing on the Spurs in the paint, and they were giving up practice shots from the corner three tonight throughout the entirety, really, of the game. And the Spurs started hitting them, and there was just no defensive rotation back to it at all. And again, it's one of those games where a young team that brought the proper intent into Chase Center to play against the Warriors, the confidence grew as the night went on. And as the confidence grew, even when the Warriors had the 12-point lead going to the fourth, you're thinking, all right, if they can just get anything for 2-3 minutes without Steph Curry to maintain the lead, he's coming back in, you put the game away. But it didn't happen. Top of that fourth quarter, Spurs go on another. It was a 20-3 in the second. It was a 12-4 in the beginning of the fourth quarter, first 3 minutes, and all of a sudden it's a 4-point game just like that. Warriors at that point plus 20 in the Steph Curry minutes, but the Warriors were minus 16 in the non-Curry minutes. They ended up minus 7, though, from the point at which Curry came back into the game. And Steve Kerr brought Steph back into the game with 9:05 to go after the regulars had not played a lot of minutes last night against the Suns with the blowout victory. And so Kerr played Jimmy Butler the whole quarter. It looked like Butler getting to the free throw line. Were the Warriors going to have enough? But every time it looked like they could put the game away with their offense, they would turn it over. Every time it looked like they could put the game away with their defense, they would give up a corner three or they would give up a layup in the paint. And the Warriors just could not shake San Antonio. Made some key plays. Draymond Green with a key offensive rebound to Curry for a layup. Warriors are up 4 at that point. But then, again, the Spurs comfortable throughout the night. And again, a lot of wide open looks, too many wide open looks, too many corner threes, and just a game that, the Warriors, as it went on, I think felt at different points they had in the bag, I think. And there was a little bit of a let up with some bad lineups, some poor shooting from some of the others tonight, and then the turnovers from Draymond and Steph Curry. I mean, this one is on Draymond Green and Steph Curry in terms of the final couple of minutes and the turnovers that they had, in addition to those groups that started the second and fourth quarters. Kuminga with the other four starters that aren't Curry, Guy Santos with the other four starters that aren't Curry in the second quarter. Again, you look at those first 3 to 5 minutes when Steph was out at the beginning of those quarters, the Warriors got beat by 17 in the first, and they got beat very quickly by 8 in the first 3 minutes. I mean, you're talking a 25-point dominance of San Antonio just in the beginning of the second and fourth quarters in a game that they wind up losing on a buzzer-beating 3. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. If you want to vent, if you want to jump in and join the conversation as to your frustration, if you want to try to look ahead at here what's left, just 2 games to go. The Warriors obviously are going to need both of them, plus some help against Portland on Friday and the Clippers on Sunday afternoon in a game ESPN made part of their national doubleheader for the final afternoon of the season on Sunday. And the Warriors, point blank, bottom line, now only control their destiny as it relates to the 7 seed in the Western Conference. Still could dip to 8 if they slip up and lose another one, depending upon what Minnesota and Memphis do here over the final 2-3 games of the season. Memphis has 3 to go in addition to Minnesota. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Still have to see how it plays out. But, yeah, you can kiss the 3 seed goodbye. You can all but kiss the 4 seed, I think, at this point in time by it. It's just going to be, can they win out in these final 2 and get enough help in the right places to find their way back into the top 6? And the way the tiebreakers shake out, it's more and more likely if they do, they would wind up playing the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. If not, it would be play-in tournament. Currently, Warriors would be locked in a matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves at Chase Center a week from last night. And again, obviously, you put yourself at the mercy of needing to win that game to get a matchup against Houston, who's clinched the 2 seed. You lose that game, maybe you're playing a second home game against Dallas or Sacramento that would be an elimination game with a chance to go to Oklahoma City and play the best team in the Western Conference, and I think the team that's been the best in the NBA throughout the course of the majority of the season in the first round. So 808 KNBR. Let's get it going on the phone lines here tonight. We'll get in the YouTube chat as well. We are at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. We got Mike and Shay here. I would say cheers, but it's not really a cheers kind of night for the Warriors as Harrison Barnes sends them to an L here on this Wednesday. All right, let's get to the phones. Eric in Idaho up first here on Dubs OT tonight on the Sports Leader. Hey, Eric.
Hey, John. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, 2 questions for you. Do you think that Kerr should have sat Curry during that last possession because he may have been mentally or emotionally fatigued? That's with 32 seconds left. That's my first question. My second question is,
okay, I'm gonna let that one go. Eric, I'm gonna let that one go, but I'm gonna also caution you to be very careful with your second question.
Okay, thank you for the warning. Here's my second question: would you pay $30 million a year to somebody that played 3 minutes in the fourth quarter, is not trusted by their coach, and went scoreless against the Spurs team that I don't know any of the players? I can't name.
Who are you talking about? You're talking about Kuminga?
I know. I'm just asking. Would you pay $30 million to a player who can't play, 12 minutes in a fourth quarter, where we're trying to get out of the play-in scenario here?
Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Kuminga? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Draymond? Who are you talking about?
Who do you think I'm talking about, John?
I think you're talking about Kuminga, but you're also trying to be coy, and I'm about to hang up on you and disqualify you from further competition. So you can either get to the point and make the point, all right, because you're trying to be a smart ass talking about mental fatigue and all this other stuff as it relates to Steph Curry. So spit it out or call it a night. Last chance.
Okay, I will. I'll spit it out here. Would you pay? So will you answer though, John? If I spit it out,
I'm going to answer if you say the name of the player you're talking about.
Okay, would you pay $30 million a year to Kuminga right now when Kurt's yanking him with 9.5 minutes left when we're trying to get out of the play-in?
No, because I would not. He's not worth the $30 million. He played awful at the beginning of the fourth quarter, or he shouldn't have been out there any more than he was at this point. And the short answer, and I appreciate you for let's getting down to brass tacks with me here. No, he's not a $30 million player at this point, and I don't think the Warriors are going to pay him $30 million this offseason. I don't know that anybody's going to pay him $30 million this offseason. Now, he's is he the reason they lost tonight? I mean, one of many reasons they lost tonight, I guess. He's not at the top of my list. But to answer your question specifically and directly, Eric, the answer would be no. I would not pay Jonathan Kuminga $30 million a year. But I don't think Kerr ripping him out of the game and all that. That was the correct decision.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your answer there, John. And the last thing I'll say is go Giants. That's the last thing I'm going to say.
All right. I appreciate that. Thanks, Eric. Good phone call. 808 KNBR. I'm not messing around tonight. 415-808-5627. Come in, get to the point. Eric clearly was our guy from back a couple weeks ago that was all pissed off about rest nights and the like. Well, that didn't come into play tonight. I mean, bottom line is you got to play better, but let's spit it out. If you're talking about Jonathan Kuminga, we can talk about Jonathan Kuminga. All right, Bruce in San Jose next. 808 KNBR. We'll move on here tonight on Dubs OT. What's going on, Bruce?
Yeah, hey, good evening, JD. Thanks again for taking the call. Yeah, that was frustrating just to listen to. But I agree. I would definitely not pay Kuminga, if that's the going rate, because he was very frustrating. Again, like you said, not the reason we lost, but he could have been the reason we won. But now I'm just resigned. We're going to be in the play-in. I hope that we only have to play one play-in. But even then, we did great against Denver, right? I mean, they didn't have Jamal Murray, but they saw Joker. But we tonight depleted San Antonio. And how recently? Maybe within a month ago, gave up a 17-point lead to San Antonio. I don't know. I'm losing hope, but I'm still cautiously optimistic. They're very up and down team right now for me.
Yeah, tonight was a letdown game, and really it's unacceptable at this point to have a letdown game when everybody on the planet knows that you got to beat Phoenix, you got to beat San Antonio, you got to beat Portland, and then you let the chips fall where they may. If you can't beat the Clippers in the last day of the year and you wind up coming up short because some of the other things don't go your way, then I think you can appreciate, respect, say that you gave it your all and go play in the play-in tournament. But I think, when you lose this game in that fashion to a team that basically has kind of shut it down, not even kind of shut it down, they've shut it down. They're playing young players that are healthy. They've shut down everybody that's got any semblance of an injury, and they're trying to get the best possible draft pick they can to not be able to play hard enough or smart enough, consistently enough to be able to put the game away when you have a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter. It's maddening, and if it winds up being the reason, as great as the Warriors have played since the Jimmy Butler trade, if tonight winds up being the reason that they end up having to be in the play-in tournament, then that's what they've earned. I mean, that's just the reality of it and the position that they had put themselves in prior to the trade. And, if it means they have to beat Minnesota or the Grizzlies or somebody else and they get got, then they're going to look back on tonight and they're going to wish that they had been able to come out and have a little bit more in the tank.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're going to earn their playoff spot. Where they end up, they're going to earn it.
Exactly. Whatever they get, they'll earn it. And if they don't, then we're going to break it. We'll break all that down at that point. Why didn't they? And who didn't come through? Because that obviously will change a lot of the conversation as it heads to next year about who should be around, who shouldn't, and what they need to do to improve the rest of the roster to get it to that point. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Good call. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The number here as we get things rolling. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. A couple of lines open, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line open as well here as the Spurs beat the Warriors tonight 114-111. Harrison Barnes, the game-winning three at the buzzer. And so the Warriors fall into the 7 seed in the Western Conference. Now a play-in team at the close of business tonight. We'll reset all the standings. We'll get into all the scenarios here between now and 11 o'clock as we get closer to calling it a night. We got Sounds of Dubs OT coming up. A lot coming up here as well. Fun with numbers following this Warriors loss. Let's keep it going on the phone lines as you listen to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco. The Sports Leader, a Cumulus Media station, and we go up north to our friend Danny in Vancouver checking in here tonight on Dubs OT. What's going on tonight, Danny? How are you, my friend?
I'm all right. So nice to see you last week at the Denver game.
Yes,
Thanks.
Wonderful, and your wife as well. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. That was the high point. You can talk me off the ledge here, but this game was just devastating. I've watched so many Warriors games. I just know you get that feeling, when it just doesn't feel right. It didn't feel right all game. They start off great. They could have been farther ahead. They weren't. They had, big letdowns during the game, which was frustrating. Pod's had a bad shooting night. I'm not going to criticize him too much. He just, didn't have it. Fortunately, Steph was the only one who had it from distance, and even he wasn't great. But I just got the sense, and obviously I want to hear your comments, JD. They just seemed tired, and maybe just making more mental mistakes. I mean, they had a chance to score. They give the ball away. At the end, San Antonio comes down and scores, and Dre hits 2 foul shots. And, I thought we're going in overtime, but that last second shot was just devastating. So a couple of things. I thought this could be the worst loss of the year. And I just think it might be unrecoverable in the ramifications that it has. So number one. Number two, I've never really said this before, and I've tried to not come down too hard on him, but I don't think Kuminga is ever going to be more than an average NBA player now. I've watched him so much. I don't think he has enough in his game, and I certainly don't think the Warriors are going to pay him. So that's sort of my thought on that. So anyways, I know you got a busy board here, but would love to hear your comments. Thanks again for everything, Judy. Have a good show.
All right, Danny, appreciate the call, man, and we'll see where this thing shakes out. Always a pleasure. Yeah, it is a costly loss. There's no way around it. I mean, this could be ultimately the loss that winds up being the reason that the Warriors can't win multiple playoff rounds based on their seeding and where they wind up, playing. I mean, this is a situation now where they could win out. They could get 7. They could, be straight up against Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves and have him score 50 points on them, and all of a sudden you're in an elimination game against the Kings a week from Friday, or against Dallas a week from Friday to go to Oklahoma City, and then you let things shake out. From there you're trying to pull off a kind of an all-time upset with an 8-1 at that point. Even though the Warriors, again, I think would be very comfortable playing against the Thunder. So costly loss. I think it's the most costly loss of the year, given the fact that the Warriors had gotten themselves to the point to where all they had to do was win tonight, win Friday, and they probably were going to be in the top 6 by the end of the night on Friday. Not 100% a lock, but they had a very good chance based on the Denver-Memphis, Memphis-Minnesota games that are coming up the next couple of nights to wind up in the top 6 and know that they could breathe easy no matter what happens on Sunday against a Clippers team that's beaten them 3 out of 3 times this year. So costly to be sure. And I'm with you, Danny. Tonight just did not feel right on any level. Even with the Warriors up early on 11-0. It didn't feel right. It did feel like they could have been up more. San Antonio quickly inserted themselves right back into the game after the Warriors had pushed the lead up to 24-14. It was a 9-point game at the end of the quarter, but it was that start of the second quarter where not only did the Warriors completely lose the 9-point lead, but the game completely flipped to where they got down 8 at that point, and it ended up being that 20-3 run, so a -17 there. Warriors rebounded, got it together enough to go in at half only down 4, and then able to take control with a big third quarter, down 4 to up 12, with the Warriors able to have a big third quarter in the game. But again, start of that fourth quarter, immediately San Antonio gets right back in the game, and a group in the non-Curry minutes. I mean, Curry was the only player of consequence for the Warriors tonight who was even a plus. Trace Jackson-Davis played, I think, 3 minutes and was a +3. Everybody else for the Warriors at last glance, and I'll double-check it right now, everybody else, Curry was a +13, Looney was an even, Podziemski was an even, TJD was a +3. Everybody else was a net negative tonight. Jimmy Butler had 28 points. He was a -9. Moses Moody, 1 of 7 from 3. Moody didn't hit threes tonight. Podziemski didn't hit threes tonight. I thought even though Buddy Hield hit 4 of 10 and Steph hit 5 of 14, too much volume there. 9 of 24 from 3-point range. So there were a lot of misses, a lot of empty possessions, a lot of quick shots, I thought, that were bad shots, but nobody was a net positive of consequence. The regular rotation guys for the Warriors in this game, other than Stephen Curry, and they are, whatever fate that they end up with is sealed completely by them. No excuses. This is not an excuse-driven show here on Dubs OT. You can vent, you can be sad, you can be angry, you can feel however you want to feel, and we appreciate it. And we'll get to some in the YouTube chat coming up here, but we're an accountability show here on Dubs OT with JD, and I think it starts in terms of the turnovers. I mean, Draymond with 2 of the worst passes you will see down the stretch. Steph, I thought the extra possession created on the turnover out of the timeout, where you have a shot clock differential of 8, so the Spurs are going to get the ball back, but you've got 32 seconds left. You take a timeout, you set up a play, and you immediately throw the ball away. Steph Curry immediately throws the ball away, and that was the third of just 3 turnovers by Draymond, 2 and Steph, that end up leading to the Spurs taking the lead. I think that extra possession, that flipped it, because it went from the Warriors basically having an opportunity to go ahead and then get a stop on a short clock, to the Warriors being behind, having to score on the short clock, and then potentially get another stop. They scored thanks to the Harrison Barnes foul. Draymond made the free throws, but then it gave the Spurs the last AB, basically. They got the shot to hit last, and it felt off all night, to the point where it kind of had to feel that you can get got in that type of situation, and Harrison Barnes ended up hitting the 27-foot three-pointer at the buzzer to give the San Antonio Spurs the win. All right, Phil is next here on Dubs OT. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation. We're continuing on the phone lines here. Phil, you're on the Sports Leader. Hey, Phil.
Hey, what's up, JD? I was just at the game, and I think the biggest contributor to the loss tonight had to have been Moses Moody. Every time that guy touched the ball, I felt like he was either rushing shots, wasn't making the right decision, and I think you definitely called it. There was like some, Draymond with the just getting out of balance and really turning those turnovers toward the end really ended it. But I think saying that this is maybe the worst loss of the season for us is a little over-exaggerative, especially because of how much the Warriors did do to acquire Jimmy Butler. I mean, we just watched a team that has one of the greatest players in the NBA just fire its head coach and its GM, and in one foul swoop, we have another team that's stealing a generational superstar and basically for a bag of balls in Anthony Davis. So even though this loss was pivotal with getting higher up in those standings, looking at what the other people, our competition is in Minnesota, Denver, I think regardless if we're not able to get those top 4 seeds, we've done enough to push ourselves deeper into the playoffs than some of these other teams, and beyond that, better than some of these other teams. That's all I had for you, boss.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, Phil. I think most costly is probably how I'll end up categorizing it when it's all said and done here. I think it's the most costly loss. There have been worse. There were worse in the pre-Jimmy era, to be sure. I think that the Denver game when Jokic and Murray didn't play, going back March the 17th, might go down as the worst when the Warriors had everybody and lost that one. That one, I think, also goes down as pretty costly. I think tonight's going to be the most costly when you look at play-in versus not and how things ultimately shake up. I mean, this could wind up being just a bump in the road, depending upon how the Warriors handle the final 2 and now maybe 3 games if they have to play a play-in tournament. Look, all the play-in tournament means, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything, but all it means is you got to win one more game to get yourself in. And if they win the 7-8 game, if that's what their fate is, and then they go play Houston, then I think everybody's going to have a little bit of a different feel as to forgetting about this loss. At that point, all this loss would truly have cost them would be having to play one extra game and about 3 days of rest and maybe some travel, having to go farther across the country than you would to LA or to Denver in an attempt to get to Houston to play the Rockets in that series. So I think that's the read on this thing. That could be the revisionist history here a week from tonight or a week from last night if the Warriors are able to find a way to win it. If they end up playing for the 8 seed and somehow get beat in a game like tonight against a Dallas or a Sacramento, then it winds up proving to be catastrophic. If it winds up being, somebody gets injured in having to play an extra game, or you wind up, because you had to play the extra game, having Houston beat the crap out of you for 6-7 games before you can knock them off in the first round, and then you don't have enough left in the tank to beat the Lakers in the second round, then you'll look back at the fact that maybe you wish you could have had a couple of more days off and maybe a little bit of a different matchup. Again, we don't know the answer to that, but for tonight, as we look at things, this is the most costly loss, I think, for the Warriors of the season. All right, one more before the timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We're good on taking one more, Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios. One more before the timeout, and then we'll get into the YouTube chat exclusively and extensively coming back out of the timeout here from Harmonic and Thrive City. But let's get Henry in San Francisco next year on the Sports Leader. Hey, Henry.
What's going on, JD? How you doing?
I'm all right tonight, man. I'm fired up. It's a difficult loss, but again, I mean they earned it tonight. Unfortunately for Warrior fans, they earned this loss.
Of course, it's Harrison Barnes too. Like, could have used one of those in the 2016 finals. But okay, my question is more meta, more like existential about the Warriors. Last weekend they had 4 big games, right? It was Memphis, Lakers, Nuggets, Rockets. How are they going to do in those 4? If they split, it's great. 3-1 is awesome. They won the first 3, all kind of tested games. Lost to Houston, young team, super lengthy, super athletic, super energized defensively. That's fine. I feel like after those 4 games, I'm like, okay, at least this team is a contender. One of 8 or 9 teams that are like true contenders. Did this game shake your belief in that? 1. And 2, I'm looking at Jimmy Butler's stats. Great player, kind of like calling him a mega Draymond isn't really fair because he's more of a scorer, but I'm just concerned about a second option. I'm not sure that the trade energized the team. Podziemski, I don't think will stay this hot. I don't know where the second option scoring comes from, and that came up in the Houston game where they're just trapping Steph. So existential question, I guess, is are the Warriors still a contender? And if so, let's say they get the 6th seed, where do they get that second option offense from? And how do you see, I guess, their age playing a role too in this, hopefully long playoff run?
Yeah, Henry, I think it's a great question. I think it's a fair question. It doesn't shake it doesn't shake my confidence. I'll leave you on the line. We can interact on it a little bit because I'm curious your thoughts. It doesn't shake my confidence that they're a contender in the sense that I think part of the story of tonight was a little bit of a letdown for them for whatever reason. Again, whether it's age and the back-to-back or just seeing the Spurs with so many guys out or whatever it is, it's unacceptable, but it's also natural. And I've said here for the last month, I thought some of these games against some of the lesser teams were going to be games where they were really going to have to, at some of them, work harder than maybe some would expect because the overall talent level still maybe isn't quite where you think it is based on the overall record, right? They've got a lot of guys that are playing great and stepping into different roles, but I think, they do have a tendency, I think, to, believe that they are this contending team and believe that they can win games without playing consistently well for enough of the 48 minutes against some of these lesser teams. We've seen it, the Chicago game, the Brooklyn game. We've seen it mostly on the road. We had the Denver game when the Nuggets had guys out with Jokic and Murray that didn't play. We've seen those letdowns in games where they've tried to come back and win the game, steal it basically because they weren't either as locked in or motivated. I think they've been riding on adrenaline and fury and competitive spirit. And I think it's easier to do that in the games against the teams that are above you. I think it's easier to find that energy. I think it's harder for them to find the energy and the focus against some of these other teams. So from that standpoint, Henry, I would say it doesn't shake my confidence. Your other point, though, I think is the more important one about the secondary scoring and about, in particular, Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody, because it's 100% a fair question to wonder on a night like tonight if Podziemski and Moody don't come through and this team looks ordinary enough to be able to get beat by this San Antonio team. How does that play if you're playing a really good team in a 7-game series? Are you going to get enough from those two players? Is Jimmy Butler going to go for 30 in enough games to help offset that? And tonight he did it, albeit because he got to the free throw line so much, but he did it and you didn't get enough from – you didn't have a third guy tonight, basically, and the fact that you didn't have a third guy meant you still lost the game. So I think the consistency question on will those guys make the shots that are necessary, I think that's a bigger question at this point than will they get the secondary stuff from Butler, because they did get it tonight. But if they don't get it from the others, then they're going to be in big trouble against anybody. I think that is a fair question.
Yeah. No, all great points. I think I'm looking at the box score too. Podziemski 3 of 11, Moody 3 of 11. And the issue too is I think Kuminga's in such a weird headspace where, he was this prime prospect. He's going into his pay year. That's all well and good, but he's now going to be coming off the bench. Steve Kerr is super antsy to pull him as soon as he makes a mental mistake. I don't think Kuminga's going to play a role in any playoff run. He's not free to make his own shot or create his own shot or create shots off the dribble. He's scared to turn the ball over. He doesn't really know his place defensively. And I like the guy. I'm cheering for him. But knowing Steve Kerr, he's not going to be a factor. So I couldn't agree more. It's going to come down to Moody hitting open threes, Podziemski creating off the dribble. But I mean, Jimmy Butler's run was 2 years ago when he went crazy against the Bucks?
He did. It was 2 years ago.
We got to see that.
Yeah, no. And I think that's one of the questions, because the Warriors paid him at a premium in part to help them get to this point where they were going into this game where they controlled their own destiny for avoiding the play-in. But they also got him because they felt that they were going to get that player in the playoffs, and that player in the playoffs with Steph Curry would be enough of a 1-2 punch to help lead you to legitimate championship contention. So we'll have to see, I think, how it all shakes out. The Butler component to it and also the Podziemski Moody component to it. It all is part of this evaluation as to how next year eventually Henry sets up. Because if Podziemski and Moody prove that they can't come through enough and they get beat, let's say in a first round by somebody like Houston, or this team flames out in the play-in tournament, if that winds up happening, then they're going to have to make, I think, greater wholesale changes than anyone would have anticipated going into this game tonight. We don't have the answers to this thing. There's a lot to play out. There are a lot of really fair questions. To this point, most of them have been answered. but the test isn't over, right? We got there's you can answer the first 40 of the first 45 questions right. If you flunk out on the final 5, you may not pass. So I think those are the things that are still to be determined. Appreciate the phone call, Henry.
Yeah. Thanks, JD. Last thing I'll say, I don't think anyone feels good about that last game against the Clippers. Clippers look nice. They are like Norm Powell's going to go for 50. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the new matchup. We haven't seen this team versus this team with Jimmy against them, but they're playing far better now. The Clippers are. They're playing far better now than they were at any point when the Warriors last saw them, and they last saw them in the end of December. So, yeah, the Clippers are playing great. The one thing that might be in play, Henry, is the Clippers now have an opportunity to maybe be locked into the top 6 by the end of the night on Friday, depending upon how things shake out. And we'll see, although they have the opportunity to be playing for 4th on Sunday now because of the Warriors' loss. And the other things that could happen here in the next couple of days. So we'll have to see. Tomorrow's a big one. It's Minnesota and Memphis tomorrow, so everybody's going to be watching that. If Minnesota wins, then the Warriors are going to be back in 6th at that point. But, yeah, they're going to have to beat the Clippers to be able to hold on to it now, which is not something that was going to have to be the case before the loss to the Spurs. Appreciate the call, Henry.
Yeah, good talking, JD. Peace.
All right, let's go ahead and take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. JT in Oakland, we'll get to you coming back on the other side. And we'll also get into the YouTube chat, the best chat going as the Warriors lose 114-111. Harrison Barnes with the 3 at the buzzer to send the Warriors to the loss. They threw the game away down the stretch. Bad second and fourth quarter non-Curry minutes. And the Warriors no longer control their own destiny for a top 6 spot in the Western Conference playoff race. We're talking about it all. Best Dubs coverage in the Bay, win or lose, is right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Hoops Heads, Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps balling. Streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
For a turnover, go down and stone the opposition at the rim. Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler getting it done after one of the awful turnovers down the stretch by Draymond Green. Jimmy Butler able to make the free throws off of that, but the Warriors still lose this one by the final of 114-111. Harrison Barnes with the three-pointer at the buzzer. It's funny, we had the caller Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios. Hey, I'm on the right side now. What's going on with that? We switched sides. I like being on the left side. I'm a lefty. Yeah, let's switch sides. So I appreciate that. We had a little. I actually knocked myself out of the video stream there during the break. For those that know. No beer. I didn't spill beer on the laptop or anything like that, thankfully. But no, Warriors lose. I had two thoughts. We had the person that mentioned on the phone line that Harrison Barnes making the three that he didn't make in 2016. I thought of that. I also thought of, do you remember Game 4 of the Western Conference first round 2 years ago? Harrison Barnes ended up with a wide open three which would have won Game 4 for Sacramento and put the Kings up 3-1 in that series. He missed it opposite end of the court, but on that left wing, and he missed it. And I two thoughts. I had the one that was in line with everybody. Wow, he makes that shot to beat the Warriors. But I thought, man, for the Warriors' sake, going back a couple years ago, it probably would have been a situation where the Warriors would have lost that series if Harrison Barnes had made that open three. Remember, Steph had the timeout. Steph pulled the Chris Webber calling timeout when the Warriors didn't have a timeout, which allowed Sacramento, when the Warriors had basically clinched the game, to go down and score, got a stop, and then got the ball back and had a chance to win it with De'Aaron Fox hitting Harrison Barnes. Draymond went and doubled him late, and Harrison had the wide open three that he missed. The series ended up tied at 2. Warriors went on to win that series in 7. Robert Brown in the chat, I thought that shot was going in. I was behind that basket in the corner is where the media seat is. Robert, I thought that shot was going in too, man. Wild Sunday afternoon game a couple of years ago. I thought that shot was going in too. And it was that kind of year for the Kings where they won a bunch of games. That was actually the first time the Kings all year had lost a game by a point. They had won they were like 7-0 in games decided by 1 point, and they lost that one on the Harrison Barnes three. Diggum 117 HBA hitting a pressure shot. He hit tonight because it meant nothing to his team. I think a lot of fans are thinking that. Rebel to Sounds. I had flashbacks to the 2016 finals when Barnes couldn't hit that shot. When I saw Barnes, exactly. I think a lot of people did, Rebel. I think a lot of people did. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. If you want to jump in and join the conversation on the phone lines, it's Dubs OT with JD. Warriors. Difficult loss, probably the most costly loss, I think, of the season to date. We'll see how things shake out. A lot of scoreboard watching now for the Warriors tomorrow. Minnesota and Memphis set to play in Memphis. And then Memphis goes to Denver and plays the Nuggets on Friday night. So those two games, and of course the Warriors are going to be in action on Friday night up in Portland. But and that's a game. I mean, you got to get that game. Otherwise, all things are on the table now. The Warriors could end up still making it into the top 6 with help if they win the final 2. They could also wind up 8th and end up going on the road somewhere if they somehow slip up and lose a game in Portland or lose both of the final 2 games, which would mean a road game, first game in the play-in somewhere, maybe Memphis, maybe Minnesota, a lot of travel for a one-off, and then having the potential to come back and have to play either Dallas or Sacramento, who are locked into that second play-in game. So 808 KNBR, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, 510 before we get to the YouTube chat. Don't want to hear anything about they were tired. No, I'm not, given the fact that so many played so little last night because the Warriors were buttoned up and handled business in Phoenix. Tonight, you don't get to have fatigue be an excuse. I agree with that. 100% completely agree with that. 510, JD, can you explain why Jimmy doesn't drive more when he drives, passes the ball frustrated? I think he would explain it and has explained it as just trying to make the best basketball play, and a kick out for a wide open 3 is a better play if he feels he can't finish the shot or get fouled. And I think part of it is, yes, he's playing the right way. He's playing smart, quality basketball. I think the other part of it, though, is the simple fact that he doesn't trust his ability to get by people and finish on the interior. And we've seen him get his shot blocked a lot. And so often, and tonight's a prime example, he relies on getting fouled. He relies on guile and you know, the veteran, the old man game to get guys to foul him. Pump fakes and subtleties and things to get the opponent to foul him. And he makes up for the fact that maybe he can't finish on the interior to his liking. He makes up for it by getting to the line. And tonight, 28 points on 8 shots. He was efficient, 5 of 8, and 16 of 17 at the line. 16 of 17 at the free throw line. So you go 16 of 17 at the free throw line, that's like making 8 layups. So again, if you can do it tonight, I wouldn't necessarily complain about it, but everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting. Everybody wants to know exactly, can he score enough and finish enough on the nights where he isn't getting fouled and sent to the line. And again, add that to the list of things that are going to determine the ultimate fate of this Warriors team this season. All right, let's dive into the YouTube chat. Kyle's Clicks, our formal first edition. Tommy, Warriors have been losing to sub-500 shorthanded teams. Are they just not bringing energy against bad teams, or are they just experiencing tired legs? Well, we just said tired's not going to be an excuse for this Warriors team, but they are an older team. It's not an excuse, but you got to fight through it. I think it's more. It's a combination of that, and in my mind, it's just the belief that this team is so good. And I think Steph and Draymond are as guilty of this as anybody. And I think since Jimmy's been here, I think they're guilty of believing that they can win these games with a couple of knockout blows at different points, and that they don't have to. They're trying to not expend as much energy by just kind of rolling through the game and win it with a big third quarter like they did tonight. Well, guess what? Couldn't do it. Why? Because they were so bad at the beginning of the second and fourth quarters that the big third quarter, 37-20, 37-21, wasn't enough. And so those points in the game were worse than the points in the game where the Warriors did have again, they tried to win it with one quarter. And you got to play harder and better and smarter for longer stretches against some of these bad teams, because I don't think the talent is truly there at the level that maybe they think it is. The talent is there, but the margin for error isn't, if that makes sense. So I think that's part of it. But you look at this, San Antonio tonight, that's a bad loss. It's a horrible loss. Houston, you can understand, coming off of the 3 that the Warriors had won prior to that. The Miami and Atlanta losses, you didn't have Steph Curry. So again, those are, that not an excuse, but we've seen, and I don't mean to be blunt about it. I don't mean to be Michael Malone level blunt, but this team isn't good without Steph or Jimmy. You take Steph or Jimmy away, they're not beating anybody. You take Steph or Jimmy away, they might lose both playing games. You take Steph, if the Warriors had to play next week without Steph or Jimmy, and they're playing Memphis and they're playing Minnesota and Sacramento, they might not even beat Sacramento or Dallas without Jimmy or Steph. And so, I think when this team plays well, we start to think that they're standalone great. And the truth is, they're good to great when they have everybody in their rightful roles. And I think when you look at this thing top to bottom, they missed Quentin Post tonight. They missed GP2 tonight. Again, not putting that as the reason they lost, and they should have won the game anyway. But they missed those guys tonight. And I think that's something that you have to, you go through the 2 games without Steph, the Denver game shorthanded, that's horrific. And then the other one was the game in Philly. They didn't have Jimmy. So you go back here, March and April, the Warriors have 6 losses, okay? They have the 2 horrible losses to the Spurs tonight and to Denver when Denver was shorthanded. Then they have 2 without Steph, 1 without Jimmy, and the one that I think is easily explained away with the 4th game in 6 nights against Houston on Sunday. That's the one that's the least problematic of the group. All right, let's continue on. 808 KNBR also, if you want to jump in and join the conversation. Let's ride. This is the worst regular season loss in the NBA point spread-wise since 2019. Wow. Did not know that. Let's ride. That's good knowledge right there. A 17.5-point spread tonight, and the Warriors end up losing by 3. Yeah, that's really bad. That is really bad. Ian J. Warriors thought they were just going to show up and get a win. Correct. And I was having the conversation with Austin Scott of a KNBR digital team doing great work. First thing I said when I saw Austin was over at the Giants game, big walk-off win for the Giants. He pops in. I'm sitting there in the section. I'm going through a bunch of notes. I'm going through all the playoff scenarios and different things. And we were talking a little bit briefly. He's like, God, the Suns are awful. Talking about the game last night. First thing. I said, yeah, the Suns are awful. You know what I said to him next? I said, this game's going to be a tougher game than that game because the Spurs at least have some young players who are going to try. And there you know. Wouldn't you know? And the Warriors... Stephon Castle, those of you that have followed this show, I'm a big Stephon Castle fan. Like, I think he's terrific. We've seen Keldon Johnson get some numbers against the Warriors. Vassell, Champagnie was getting some numbers tonight and making his impact felt. But, yeah, Ian J., you're spot on. Warriors thought they were just going to show up and get a win. Can't do it. This team's they're not good enough for that. Look at the way they played last night. Look at the purpose that they played the game last night with. Energy defensively, dominant first quarter up 13. And guess what? You chase it with a dominant second quarter up 26 at halftime. That's how you put a game away. Tonight, it really does fall on everybody. Because when the Warriors had the 12-point lead, it was great start, horrible beginning to the second quarter, put the Warriors in a position where they had to come back down 4 at the half. They go plus 16 in the third quarter to be up 12 going to the fourth. That top of the second quarter lineup, he put Kuminga in. I'm not putting it on Kuminga, by the way, but Guy Santos was terrible with that group in the first half. Kerr went to Kuminga with that group in the second half. Again, it was the entire group in both halves, and Kuminga was only part of it the second time. So I'm not putting it on Kuminga when I say that. Point being, Kerr went away from the worst player of that group in the first half and put a different player in the second half. Kerr only stuck with that lineup for 3 minutes. And then Steph was back in with 9:05 to go. Steph was back in. That, to me, was like the Warriors didn't mess around at that point, and they still got beat because Steph with the horrible turnover late, Draymond a couple of horrible turnovers late. The defense was not there tonight, collapsing on the interior, and then just wide open kickouts, like zero rotation. How many wide open corner threes did San Antonio have? in this game.
I mean, that was damn near all of Harrison Barnes' threes up until the buzzer beater.
I mean, wide open corner threes. I'm going to look at the shot chart here. I mean, that to me was as egregious as anything. And San Antonio at 38 in the paint, they at a 60% clip. But I'm looking at the corner threes in this one. I mean, my goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm looking at 7 corner threes. 7 corner threes for the Spurs in this game of their 18 of 46, and those were wide open. Regulator, they beat the Spurs by 40 plus a week and a half ago too. Yeah, and maybe that's why they were a little bit high on their supply tonight in terms of not that they were going to come out and win by 40, but they were going to come out and be able to kind of put it on cruise control. Here's the other part of that equation. You know, that was a Warriors team that was coming off of a couple of losses. They had won the game prior to that in Memphis, but coming off a couple of losses, a little high on their supply, or I'm sorry, not high on the supply, but a little more focused because they couldn't be high on their supply because they had lost the 2 games without Steph in Atlanta and Miami. So they felt they had to run the table for a bit in that one. And so they won in New Orleans. They won that game. They ended up winning in Memphis and LA. They beat Denver. That was in a fully locked in mode. And for whatever reason, the Warriors are more fully locked in at home or on the road as opposed to at home, which I think is another problem. All right, let's continue on here as we move forward. Drew Butler, 48 threes versus a team who didn't really have a center. Warriors took a lot of bad shots tonight. Too many bad threes tonight for sure. And they were actually successful at pretty much a 60% clip on the interior when they got in there, but they did not look to go in there tonight. They settled tonight, and that's a mark of a team that wants to coast. When you settle for jumpers, I'm not saying tired because it's an excuse, but it's kind of lazy. It's because you don't feel that you have the energy, or you don't want to expend the energy to continue to move the rock and continue to attack on the interior. Moving forward, Drew Butler. Drew, good one there. Let's get another one. Apollo Crews, not too long ago, Dubs fans were calling Pods the third scorer. Well, he has played that role, but is he truly a third scorer consistently? Do we know that for sure? I don't necessarily think we do know that for sure. Again, time will tell. I think this team still lacks one consistent shooter that is a wing. And you know, I've said it a lot. I don't know that it's necessarily a scorer per se, but it's just one more consistent shooter to where you have the Buddy Hield option as a bench guy, but you also have somebody that on a night where Moody and Podziemski aren't hitting and Steph is a volume guy, maybe that guy can knock in 3 or 4. And you know who has been playing that role for the Warriors for the last 2 months? Quentin Post. Quentin Post has been playing that role for a significant chunk, where maybe Quentin Post goes 3 for 5 from 3 tonight, and the Warriors end up winning the game by 6 as opposed to losing it by 3. All right, let's get another one here. I can deal with losing, but giving the ball away often in the clutch should be unacceptable. I don't think it bothers them either. I think it bothers them. But when it's your best players doing it, I think that makes it all the more frustrating because it truly is on them. Like you can't, you're not coaching that out of Steph Curry and Draymond Green after 4 championships and a couple more finals appearances, and in Steph's case, MVPs and finals MVPs and all of that. Like, you're not coaching it out of them at this stage. They just have to, in the moment, not do it. And that didn't happen for the Warriors. Digum 117, I'm looking at the most recent one. Pods has been all right. He had an off night. Moody's been consistently off. He has been more consistently off, and he closed tonight. He looked scared. I don't know what the other options were for the Warriors tonight. You could have played Buddy, and maybe that winds up being some defensive miscues. Like I think Steve found the right closing lineup, not having Post and not having Gary Payton II tonight. Are you going to close for Buddy over Moody? Then you're smaller and you're more attackable potentially defensively. Plus, I think you're trying to figure out if Podziemski and Moody can fight through tough nights to be closing players and still help a team win. So I think that's part of it too. Moving forward here, good one there. Jimbo, they proved tonight what we suspected. This is not a championship team. Maybe not. I mean, does tonight prove it? Possibly. I think the one area, we had the caller earlier where I agreed, the one area where I think tonight maybe proved it is the Moody Podziemski. Like, I think if the Warriors go out, it is going to look like tonight, not necessarily in terms of the turnovers, although it could, but I think with the Warriors, if they get beat in the playoffs or the play-in at this point, it's going to be because Moody and Podziemski didn't hit shots. I really do think that's going to be part of it. And they didn't get enough from Kuminga, or he played his way out of the rotation. And, Jimmy did what he did tonight, but didn't go for 40 to save it. And I think the other part of tonight, you can try to take Steph away when others are not hitting shots. And it's kind of a night-to-night proposition. If others aren't hitting shots for the Warriors, then smart teams can focus more attention on Steph and really try to take him away down the stretch and dare the others to beat you. Now, you might get beat, but every other team in the league is going to say, hey, we'll tip our cap and go down and defeat if it's going to be Podziemski and going to be Moody that are going to be the guys that are making shots. Let's do one more here, and then we'll take another timeout. Every touchdown pass they throw gets turned over. They got to throw that away. There's no doubt about it. They got to throw that away and not be looking to throw the deep ball. They need to not throw the deep ball as much. They need to be a little more dink and dunk. Although Draymond and Steph tried to throw a couple dink and dunks, and how did that work out for them in the final couple of minutes? Brutal stretch for the Warriors. So you want to do one more, Kyle, in this segment, or do we want? We can time out. Let's take a timeout. We'll pause here. We'll come back. 808 KNBR if you want to jump in and join the conversation. 415-808-5627. Oh, we got a couple of calls on the line. I didn't realize we had a couple of calls on the line. Actually, you know what? Can we go another couple minutes, Kyle? All right, let's get the calls. I don't want people to wait on hold. Don in San Francisco, we're going to get to you right here before we take our timeout as we get closer to the 11 o'clock hour. What's going on, Don? You're on the Sports Leader.
Oh, it was a terrible loss we had tonight, because, I don't know. It's just like they just missed their treat. If we don't make it this year, we lose to the play-in or whatever, I don't know who's to blame right here. I don't want to say any names right now. I don't want to say nobody's name, what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I don't want to say nobody's name. It's just a team. They got to improve. They got to clean up their mess. That's all I tell you.
All right, Don, I appreciate it. Terrible loss, to be sure. No disagreement there. You don't have to say anybody's name because you weren't hinting at a specific player and not saying his name. So you and I appreciate it. You can speak generally here if you'd like on Dubs OT. Adam in San Jose here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Adam.
Hey, JD. I think the Rockets really exposed us. If you really take Steph out of the game, there's really no answer. If Podziemski's not hitting shots, if Moody's not hitting shots, then just take Steph out the game and we can lose to any team. And then my next thing is I think we've been letting Kuminga off the hook a little too much. He doesn't get enough of the blame when we lose games. What does he do out there? He needs to come to terms ASAP that he's not a three-point shooter. That highly contested shot that he took was absolutely ridiculous. The other one was wide open, so I get that one. But he needs to come to terms that three-point shot is not for him, and he needs to stop taking it. You look at guys like Stephon Castle. You look at guys on those young guys on the Houston Rockets, and you're like, why can't Kuminga be half the player that these guys are? He wants to be paid $30-35 million a year. He's got to start playing like it, because he's definitely not even a $5 million player right now.
Adam, thanks for the call. Yeah, he needs to ditch the 3-point shot. He's already more than a $5 million player, so just for accuracy's sake. But yeah, he's got to. I hate him off the dribble three. The pull-ups, the turnarounds. I mean, if you've listened to this show, you've heard me go in on all of those things. I don't think he necessarily deserves a ton of the blame, but for tonight specifically, I mean, he's a role player. I think that's the part that everybody has to come to grips with. He's a role player. Now, yeah, he may think he's a future star. Some in the Warriors organization may think he's a future star. Hell, the owner may think he's a future star. All things can be equally true on that front. He's not one right now. And his ability to contribute to this Warriors team, as I've said since the beginning, since training camp in Hawaii, his ability to contribute to this team winning is as a role player. And it's hustle plays, it's doing the little things, it's scoring on the interior, it's efficient, it's not shooting the turnaround jumpers, it's not thinking you're Kobe Bryant or Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. But it's being attentive defensively. He's still in a team defensive concept, gets lost. He's a flawed player at this point, and he's somebody that I don't think there's enough time left for him to be a regular contributor. There may be the game where he gets an opportunity like he did in the Laker game and he's awesome. And if he is in those matchups, he's going to play. If he isn't, like he wasn't tonight and like he hasn't been in some other games, then he's not going to play as much. It's no different. He's no different at this point than Buddy Hield or Guy Santos or Quentin Post or anybody else in terms of role players that have to play well. GP2, guys that have to, as role players, earn their spot in a closing lineup. And I think Podziemski and Moody are in a little bit of a higher up category than that. They're a little bit protected from that. They're not completely protected from that. But I think right now it's Steph, it's Jimmy, it's Dre, and then it's Moody, Podziemski kind of in their own category where they get a lean toward being a closing player. And then Kuminga's in the group with everybody else. Everybody else. If he plays great, he'll play more and finish. If he doesn't, he won't. Again, we don't need to have these grand conversations about he's not getting $30 million a year. It's not happening. Like we don't need to do it every night. Like Steph said a week ago. Like it's going to be a difficult decision, but I don't think we know the answer as to what the Warriors do because we have to see how their season ends. But I think, I don't think Kuminga deserves a lot of the blame for tonight, to be perfectly honest. He had some buckets on the inside. He took some bad shots. I don't think he was great overall. And he had a really bad start of the fourth quarter, and that was it. Kerr ripped him out of the game. He got Buddy Hield back in there, and they needed some more shooting. About a minute later, he got Steph back in there. So I don't think it's something that we need to, bang everybody over the head with. It's just he's a role player. And if he winds up playing exceptionally well for multiple playoff series, then maybe, he gets himself back in the conversation to make a little bit more money. But nobody should be worried or thinking or even evaluating that at this particular point in time. It's just a matter of, can he be a capable enough role player on this team to help him win games tonight? He didn't do that. He'll get an opportunity in Portland on Friday night. He'll get an opportunity against the Clippers on Sunday afternoon. He's a part of the team. This is the team. You can't make these wholesale changes at this particular point. All right, let's go ahead and take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. If you want to continue on the phone lines, we do have a couple of lines open. And we'll get to Sounds of Dubs OT coming up on the other side. I think we're going to hear from Steve Kerr. We're going to hear from Draymond. We're going to hear from Steph. I know that. And maybe a couple of others as well as the Warriors lose at the buzzer. Harrison Barnes with the game winner as time expires. Warriors fall to 7th And we're talking about it right here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, let's dive into it. Warriors lose to the San Antonio Spurs, 114-111. Harrison Barnes, the game-winning three at the buzzer to send the Warriors to defeat. We're back here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. 808 KNBR, if you want to jump in and join the conversation as I fix the camera there. Cheers to everyone who's out here. It's actually a pretty spirited, although frustrated crowd at Harmonic in Thrive City. Billy Joe and Alamo out here tonight as well before we get to Sounds of Dubs OT. Billy Joe leaving a message. Barnes did to the Dubs what Yaz did to the Reds. Yikes. Billy Joe here checking in. Always good to see him out at Harmonic in Thrive City. All right, Kyle, let's get to it here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader and our Sounds of Dubs OT as I click back. A couple of Kerr, couple of Curry, couple of Draymond here as the Warriors lose this one to San Antonio. We'll start with the head coach and what the most key component to the loss was tonight in his estimation. Here's Steve.
I just felt like we never, other than the first 5 minutes of the game and the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, and I never felt like we had control of them defensively. And so we left the door open. We know they're a really good three-point shooting team. They made 17 last night against the Clippers and hung in there and gave them a tough game. So this was not a surprise to see this kind of effort from the Spurs. But we couldn't contain them defensively. And when you do that, you leave the door open for shots like they hit, like the one Harrison hit at the end.
No question. You allow a team to get confidence and they feel good about themselves and they get in a flow. And again, to me, it comes down to all of the drive and kicks. Guys didn't hit shots. But tonight is a game the Warriors could have won with their defense had they been a little bit more locked in and energetic and focused, despite the fact that they didn't make shots. And here's the thing that does play in the big picture. The Warriors are going to have to win playoff games with their defense if guys aren't hitting shots. Like, we can sit here and say, oh, Moody didn't hit this and Pajimski didn't do that and Kuminga could have done more and Jimmy's got to score in this way or that way. We can get into all of those things, and they're all accurate. But the only counter for the Warriors on the nights where these guys are that unproductive offensively is going to be to grind it out and zero-sum game it and stifle a team defensively, and bringing that intent early is how you do it. Warriors did not have that intent early, and San Antonio able to get comfortable and able to prevail. I think Steve's right on as it relates to that. Continuing on here, one more for the head coach of the Warriors here. Start of the second, start of the fourth quarters, also a key component to the loss. Here's the head coach, Steve Kerr, addressing that.
That was the key to the game. Top of the second, top of the fourth. We played two great quarters tonight, first quarter and third quarter. And then both of those quarters, top second, top four, they blitzed us. I think they went 19-3 in the second quarter. And then to go into the fourth with a 12-point lead and immediate, I think it was maybe a 12-4 start, in the fourth. And those were the two key stretches of the game. Yeah, and bad enough for those two key stretches to where they outdid two quarters. That's the thing that's as maddening as anything, all things considered, is the fact that basically 9 minutes, and it was a little bit more than that when Steph was on the court, but you look at Steph into the night, he ends up playing 37 minutes. So Steph was off the floor in this game for 11 minutes. Basically 8 of the 11 minutes were minutes. It was actually maybe even a little bit more than that. More like, we're really talking about like 6-7 minutes of game action where the Warriors got beat by like 20. And 6 or 7 minutes of the game outdid 2 full quarters because those 6-7 minutes were so bad
with Steph off the floor. Unacceptable, really, when you look at the way things wind up with the Warriors losing this game. All right, from Steve, we go to Steph. Always have to look at the best players first and foremost. We'll do that here. And Steph talking about Draymond's clutch free throws, but the fact that the Warriors got themselves in a position that they shouldn't have, and it wound up being the reason they got beat.
Yeah, man, shout out Draymond knocking down the free throws. I got trapped on that play. Threw it back. Did he do it? I don't know if he did it intentionally or whatever he decided to do. Draymond made them free throws, and obviously a big shot that next possession. You give a team life and give them the ability to make a run, finish the fourth quarter like they did, then it's make or miss at the end of the game, whether it's going to overtime or not. And you never want to put yourself in that position. We did and got bit by it.
Yep, make or miss, and Harrison made it. And the Warriors end up taking the L for it, and now Golden State has to look ahead at Portland and the ability to try and hope for help. It's now win 2 and hope for help, unless you want to be playing a week from last night, next Tuesday, inside Chase Center against whoever the other team that winds up struggling here in the next couple of days. And we'll lay out all the schedules and everything here before we wrap it up. At about 11:30. We're going to probably go to about 11:30 here tonight on Dubs OT. But we've got not every scenario, Kyle, but we can lay out where things sit right now, and we will lay out where things sit because there are Memphis, in a lot of ways, I think holds the keys to the car here for the Warriors as you start to look at, well, who could potentially help them and how? Because Memphis is playing Minnesota and Denver the next 2 days. All right, one from Steph. Let's get another from 30 here about just that. What's left with 2 games to go and the Warriors now not controlling their own destiny? He says the Dubs have something to prove.
No, there's definitely weight, and there's been weight for a while. We understand. I mean, our record's been great in the last 20-plus games, and every one of them we felt a sense of urgency. So with 2 games left, you can kind of narrow down it's 48 minutes on Friday is going to be important. Sunday the same. We've had a very professional approach and very consistent, level we've been playing at. Our execution tonight just wasn't great, and a good team will bounce back from it and take care of business these next 2 and then go from there. So we have to prove that we're a good team.
Yeah, and the Warriors have been proving that they're a good team. The 21-4 now in the games where Steph and Jimmy Butler play, but tonight was just not one that anybody had on the bingo card as one that was going to wind up being in the loss column for the Dubs. And so bouncing back in Portland where they opened the season is going to be key to determining their path as to where they will end their season. Some poignant words there from the Warriors superstar. All right, let's hear from Draymond Green, who was, as described to me, Kyle, by our buddy Austin Scott, as down and just sad and dour as he's seen all year. Draymond Green post-game. So let's hear from Draymond. Draymond didn't want to hear about the fourth quarter being the reason that they lost this game.
It didn't happen in the fourth quarter. It happened in the second quarter. End of the first quarter, second quarter, we just started giving up straight line drives. They found a rhythm. That's when it happened. We found a way to get the lead back, but we never don't mess around with games. Mess around with games in this league, you lose.
And the Warriors messed around with the game. The straight line drives led to the overcommitment to stop the straight line drives later, which made the Warriors vulnerable to those kickouts for threes. It made the Warriors vulnerable to extra passes behind the defense for layups. We saw that in the closing minute where they were able to stop ball in the middle, but the Spurs were able to get it behind them for a layup. That was off the Curry turnover on the pass back before Draymond got fouled by Harrison Barnes and hit the free throws. So it all started with those straight line drives, though, early, without a doubt, as Draymond explains there. All right, one more from Draymond here on Dubs OT as the Warriors lose this game. The lack of grit, the lack of intensity, the lack of edge. Again, that's been the way the Warriors have won games when they haven't shot well. They've done it with defense. They couldn't do it tonight. Here's Draymond Green on all of that.
There's a lack of grit. Sometimes it don't take focus. Sometimes it takes grit. There's a lack of that.
Lack of grit. And Draymond's typically the guy who will bring the grit, and Jimmy bring the grit. Not enough grit. Not enough grit to overcome the mistakes and the poor shooting and the sloppiness. But again, I will say that is the template, because there are going to be games where Podziemski and Moody don't hit threes and they lack a third score. Hell, there may be some playoff games that lack a second score if Jimmy's not getting to the free throw line 20 times. There may be games where that happens. So we'll see. But the way you win those games, and we talk about it all the time, the way you win those games is with your defense. The Warriors, when they've been a legitimate contender, they win the clutch games because of their defense, and their defense was not on point tonight, and there were too many turnovers offensively tonight that put them in that position where Harrison Barnes could atone, as Bennett Roth says in the chat, Barnes atoning for the brick at the buzzer in the 2023 playoffs that would have sent Sacramento to a 3-1 lead over the Warriors in that series after what? A catastrophic. Nobody remembers. Kyle, do you even remember that Steph Curry called timeout when the Warriors didn't have one?
I don't
at the end of that game?
I actually don't remember.
Steph Curry called timeout with the Warriors. The Warriors were up. I think they were up 4. They were up 4, up 5. I can't remember how many they were up 4, up 5. They got to stop, and Steph was kind of exhausted and was taking his time getting the ball up the court, and then got trapped and just immediately called timeout. And because he wasn't going to get to the 8-second line, and they didn't have a timeout. And it turned into a technical, and the Kings made the free throw and then scored a bucket. I want to say they hit a 3. I think they made a free throw and hit a 3. And so the Warriors were up 1. So they were up 5 with like 30 seconds left, something like that. The game was over. And he called timeout. They hit the free throw, hit a 3, up 1. The Warriors miss. And then the Kings had the final possession, down 1 to win the game. And Harrison Barnes missed the 3 from the left wing on the opposite basket. It was the basket by the Warriors bench that Barnes missed the 3 back here in April of 2023. And the Warriors survived. They went on to win Game 5. They came back to chase and lost Game 6. And then we all know what happened in Game 7 in Sacramento with Steph going for 50. But, yeah, Barnes atoning for that miss on this night. All right, let's take one more timeout, if that's cool. Let's do one more quick timeout. We'll come back and we'll do our Kyle's Clicks. We'll do our Fun with Numbers segment, and we'll wrap things up and look ahead. We'll do a quick standings review as well, and we'll move on toward Friday and Sunday and see where the Warriors sit here after just a calamity of a defeat inside Chase Center. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
I agree with the chat. Kyle Haar needs a beer, Erwin Kwong says. Can we send overnight Dave to the liquor store? No. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, Kyle holds his own. Kyle's all business. Kyle's all business.
I did go to the Giants game earlier, so I may have had.
Did you do some day drinking, Kyle?
I did, and now I'm feeling it.
Okay, good. You did some day drinking while I was taking. I'm going to sound real old. You did some day drinking while I was taking a nap. Because I was on the morning show today. But I was up at 4 a.m.
But the post morning show nap does hit though.
The post morning, yes.
I've never been
I missed,
a nap guy until the morning show.
Oh yeah, it'll add years to your life, Kyle. If you're getting up at 4 o'clock to come in to host the morning show, as I've done the last couple of days, yeah, and as I took a nap, I did. I took a nap and missed the whole Giants game. I actually saw the Yaz walk-off. That was the only part of the Giants game I saw today, was the Yaz walk-off. I woke up like mid-nap, and people are texting me, oh, Giants are going to get swept. I look at the score real quick. They're down 5-1, I think, at that point. I think it ended up 6-1. And then I fall back asleep. I wake up, and I'm getting ready to get back into the city, and it's Yaz in extra innings at the plate, and then he goes deep, and I'm like, oh well, I'll head back to Chase now. So yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, Robert Brown. JD isn't always there when you call, but he's always on time. I like that, Robert. All right, let's do fun with numbers. Not a great fun with numbers. We'll be short about it tonight. Warriors end up losing this. How about this one? The Warriors lost the season series to the Spurs. You want to talk about things that can bite you in the ass. 3-game season series between the Warriors and Spurs. They lost the game where they blew the 17-point lead back in November when they were 12-3. That's what started the kickback the other direction. And they lose tonight, which is as costly a loss, I think, potentially, as the Warriors have had all year. We'll see. Maybe they wind up eking themselves back into 6 if they can win the last 2 and get a little bit of help. Maybe they wind up with a play-in game next Tuesday against Minnesota or Memphis or somebody else, and they play Houston in the first round, and it winds up not mattering or being a blessing in disguise if they can beat Houston. But 2-1 loss to San Antonio in the season series. That, as the kids say, that ain't it. 2-1 loss to the Spurs ain't it. 47-33 with 2 games to go, 24-16 at home. 2 straight home losses for the Warriors for the first time in forever. Final back-to-back set for the Warriors, 8-6 in the second of back-to-backs. And the Warriors end up 44th clutch game. Warriors have been 9-2 in clutch games with Jimmy Butler. 16-16 before Jimmy Butler in close game and in clutch games. Now 9-3 in the Jimmy Butler era in clutch games, 25-19 overall, and they lost to the Spurs twice in clutch games. Yikes. Don't love that. And blown leads in 2 games against the Spurs as well. They're 42-5 and 21-2 overall when leading after 3 quarters. And the Warriors are 21-4 when both Jimmy and Stephen Curry play together in this one. Steph scored a game-high 30 points, 20th 30-point game of the year. Jimmy scored 28. He made 16 of 17 at the free throw line. Both highs for any Warriors player this season. And the Warriors are 22-7 in the 29 games Jimmy Butler has played since joining this team. Yeah, Rick Lemke, I agree with you. Gritless for the Warriors. Before we close it out with another round of Kyle's clicks, I do want to update everybody on the standings and the scenarios as much as we know them at this point. And so here's the deal. the Warriors with the loss are 7th in the Western Conference. The Clippers won tonight at home against Houston. Houston's locked up the 2 seed, and so they were not playing for much. Clippers are playing for a lot. Denver won at Sacramento tonight in the debut of David Adelman as the interim head coach after the firing of Michael Malone. Denver wins, Clippers win. It's now a 2-way tie between those two teams for 4th and 5th. Denver has the tiebreaker. So Denver is 4. The Clippers are 5. The Lakers are 3. The Lakers won tonight at Dallas in Luka's return. Luka was unbelievable tonight in that game, and the Lakers got the win, 112-97, the final. Luka scored 45, made 7 of 10 from 3, had 8 rebounds and 6 assists in what was a warm and welcoming environment for Luka Doncic back at Dallas tonight. And that was, so the Lakers have the inside track now at the 3. Denver is 4 in a 2-way tie with the Clippers, who are 5th. Those two teams now a game ahead of the Warriors. Memphis has moved ahead of the Warriors by a half game with the loss. Memphis and the Warriors, though, are even in the loss column. Or actually, I'm sorry, Memphis, I take that back. I apologize. They're even in the win column. Memphis has a half-game lead in the loss column over the Warriors now. So Memphis moves up to 6. The Warriors are a half game back of Memphis, and the Warriors are a half game ahead of Minnesota. Well, here's the deal. Those two teams play each other tomorrow in Memphis. Big game. So the Warriors are going to gain on somebody. Are you rooting for Minnesota or are you rooting for Memphis? I think if you're the Warriors, you're rooting for Minnesota tomorrow to win in Memphis, because you would still be even with the Timberwolves at that point with the tiebreaker, and the Grizzlies would move into a tie with the Warriors. So the Warriors would have the 3-way tiebreaker over Memphis and over Minnesota. So if you're a Warrior fan, you're rooting for the Timberwolves tomorrow. That will put the Warriors back in 6, and the Warriors would control their own destiny at that point 4-6 if they win the final 2 games. So root for Memphis if you're a Warriors fan to lose tomorrow to Minnesota. And then Denver plays Memphis in Denver on Friday night. And then the Warriors-Clippers, another one of the games that's of high importance. All right, let's get our final installment of Kyle's Clicks here as we look to continue to wrap things up. Dubs OT with JD. Estimated Ice, can we get another caller for JD to yell at before we close out tonight? Yeah, I wasn't playing around tonight. I'm not playing around tonight. You're going to get blunt honesty. And, hey, those that are full of bleep won't hear it. Those that are full, I went full Michael Malone on that one. Andis Brown, Dre answers post game were like Sabrina Carpenter, short and sweet. Yes, they were. And just he was down. I mean, just again, they know. I think Draymond knew the opportunity missed for this Warriors team here tonight. Good one, Andis. We appreciate it here. Joe H., why should you even have to bounce back? Win the game like good teams should. No arguments. I got nothing on that. That's completely, utterly honest. San Jose Jazz fan 4. Michael Malone can be Kerr's anger translator. Yeah, we should. Michael Malone voice as to what Steve Kerr really means in these post-game press conferences when he says he's really proud after these just gut-wrenching losses. Estimated Eyes, this team needs Michael Malone to be blunt and frank. Well, maybe they can hire him as a consultant. Although I don't think he's given up any of the money owed to him by the Denver Nuggets after being sent packing yesterday. Robert Brown, the Warriors folded more than a chair used at a Thanksgiving family dinner. At the kids' table, the card table. I still sit at the card table. I got a 4 in front of my age, and I still sit at the card table sometimes, depending upon who's in the room. We got enough OGs, and we got enough OGs, Kyle, in the fam. Like sometimes to where like I actually welcome it. Like I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll sit at the table I sat at when I was like 9. I'm good with it. Let's go, because it's all the cousins that are like in the same boat now, right? Like we're all older now. It's like whatever.
Is the table shorter and the chairs smaller?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. The chairs are made for like a 13-year-old. Yeah, no doubt. The chairs are made for a 9-year-old. No, that's true. All right. Final two. Final two. Christopher Nolan. Well, I guess we know we have a play-in seed locked in. Yes, they cannot finish any worse than 8th, Christopher. We know that. All right, let's get our Dubs OT comment of the night, and then we're calling it a night here at Harmonic.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Read the steed. Costly is the word tonight. Yeah, it is. It's costly. It is costly. And grit. Costly. The lack of grit was costly. Jimbo, JD still fits at the short table. Yeah, I can get down in there. JD at the kids' table with a Kolsch. Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's get out of here. Warriors lose it 114-111. Big thanks to everybody. Austin Scott back at Chase. Big thanks to Shay and Mike here at Harmonic. Overnight Dave, Cole Lapelt, Kyle Haar. We'll talk to you Friday from the home studio. Warriors are taking on the Blazers. If you're a Warriors fan, you're rooting for Minnesota tomorrow against Memphis. That would put the Warriors back in 6th, and we'll see where everything shakes out as we get to Friday and Sunday. We'll talk to you Sunday from Harmonic right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
No class, no balls. The guys that are full of shit won't hear it. You know, they'll say coach is tripping.
Everything's gonna be all right.